What is going on, everybody? I'm Bobby Five, back with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. It is Monday. What is the date even? I don't even remember anymore. We're locked down, or at least I'm on lockdown. I haven't asked Sheets yet.
One day past the Ides of March.
We are living in a very strange world right now, and there is not a whole lot of things to feel great about. So, Sheets, with that, what do we talk about?
Okay, so again, I unfortunately didn't prepare too much for what I was going to say, because we can go on, we could talk about whatever. I guess the first thing I would say is I'm at least fortunate with respect. I mean, let's just talk about something like crass for a second. With respect to money and like work and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, the fact that a lot of what I can do, again, because I manage a hedge fund, whatever, and I could get a lot of it done without having to, number one, go to the office. But even if I do go to the office, which I do have to do from time to time, it's very controlled. I have very few people around, and I don't have to really see anybody. So I'm fortunate when it comes to that, my main source of money, you know what I mean, and providing for my family is not impacted by all of this. As a matter of fact, I mean, one could say that, people are more, are more concerned about that kind of thing. So I have to actually work twice as hard. But so with that said, I mean, I do sympathize in great respect for the people who are impacted more on a day-to-day financial basis, either because they can't make money right now or because they have nowhere to go, and that both things affect people financially and kind of psychologically. And we talk about this when one of our previous shows in the last couple of days, where I recalled Black Friday from poker, and when you're unable to play poker anymore. Yeah, I mean, some people are, oh, what's a big deal? So you don't play poker, whatever. But it puts a hole in your time and a hole in your planning and a hole in your life, that you don't know what to do, and you don't know, what your plan is. And human beings are creatures of planning and habit. And when all of a sudden your plans just, of what you do on a daily basis just kind of get blown up, it kind of screws your head a little bit. Like you try to fit your day in with other stuff that you're not used to fitting your day with. And it becomes a real, I guess this is the one word to curse. It becomes a real mind fuck in a way. You know what I mean? To just spend your day just in a different way. And yeah, you can do it for like a day. You could do it for like a couple of days, but if you're like, for example, and I consider professional DFS players and professional poker players, professional online, whatever, just the same as anybody else who has a job, right? If your job was either creating content and betting on DFS or creating content and doing whatever, and all of a sudden, slowly but surely, every possibility has been kind of dripping away as far as your ability to actually make money, it can screw with you a little bit. And we're trying, and again, I'm, to, at least from a DFS perspective, stay, I don't want to say the word relevant in the wrong way, but continue to plan for the future and to intellectually stimulate in whatever way we can. It is different and it is hard, so I personally feel for everybody. And yeah, obviously I feel more for the people that are poor, that can't get their, money, can't get, that need a lot of help and all that stuff, obviously, but yet still I do feel for even the, I don't say more well off, but the people that are just used to a different way of their days progressing that are just not happening right now. So I guess I would start with that, but I guess we can just start with the most important thing, which I don't know how much you talked about this on the air, but tell me about your mom.
So it looks like she tested positive. She tested negative. I'm sorry, which is good. Was really happy last night. The process of getting her in and pulling connections and strings for someone who shouldn't need to have strings pulled was a frustrating one. I talked about that a little bit. She finally got in because of a friend of a friend literally snuck her in basically, and she had to lie a little bit about exactly what symptoms she was exhibiting right then, which she was coached into doing. The point of it is, it was frustrating. You really can't get tested. Like there's a guy who follows me on, maybe he'll watch this even on Twitter. He was saying his 6-month-old son, his mom has coronavirus, the mom of the son has the coronavirus. The son is 6 months old, has an immune deficiency disorder, was in NICU until he was 4 months old. So he's only had 2 months of regular life, and they won't test him. because they don't want the answers. So I felt it's a frustrating time. So even with her coming back positive, that's good news. I don't entirely trust it, to be honest with you. Even though I guess I believe it, but it doesn't, I don't feel like anything's reassuring. The first time she goes in, they tell her that the test was contaminated. To do it again, likewise again, contaminated. We won't know we'll know it in 2 hours, then we'll know tomorrow. And anyway, we finally got the news last night that they say she's negative. So that's good. I thought I would feel more relieved and happier from it than I did, because I think that this stuff has just sort of kept spiraling and it's feeling more inevitable. And being at home for someone who thinks, I guess, the way that I do, for better or worse, probably worse for this situation. I need to fill my time. I read a lot. It's not a good time to be doing too much of that because everything is disturbing. So my mood is just completely crashed from this. Anyway, but as far as the coronavirus goes, my mom is, as of right now, looks okay. She still has to stay isolated for, I think it's another 7 days. Maybe it's 6. I don't know. For all they know, they told her at first she could leave and go home right away. Then they told her 1 day. Then they told her 6 days. So I don't know. I'll find out from her later today. It's a very confusing time.
Let me ask you this. Tell me what it's like in LA as far as what the mood is outside, what the mood is inside, and also tell me, this is what's interesting to me, tell me how you're going about, if at all, trying to spread the word to those who are not, as educated on the situation as you are about what needs to be educated on.
Well, so part of my problem with this stuff is that I'm not like a bad person, that I can get a little self-righteous and testy about things that I feel like that are being lied to, especially from a government level. I don't want to get into a political part of that, but it's not even a political thing. It's just watching this guy who can barely speak. Anyway, the whole thing is just, I end up, I guess I'm leading into, I tend to end up, I don't want to say overreacting, but I'm very, very, like, I've been pushing my family on this for a while. I was glad that we isolated the old people a while ago, that we pulled the kids out of school at least a little bit early. But I try to communicate to everybody that what my personal thoughts are, because I don't think people were reading as much about this. I think the writing was on the wall. I think this is something that could have been, I don't want to say avoided. I don't know what their answer would have been, but certainly actions that we're taking now could have been taken months ago, weeks ago, anything, just to at least slow it down. Anyway, so with that, the way LA looks is getting more and more eerie and ghost-like at the moment. I have a nice little view of downtown. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I don't think so, but it's empty pretty much. There's a few people who will pop out every now and then. The precautions that we're taking, and again, this is like, it's weird because with regular masks, you shouldn't be wearing those regular masks unless you're already sick. It's meant to stop spreading of things that you already have. It's not going to stop you. It makes you more susceptible. So that's one thing I guess we can tell people to do. Don't be wearing masks unless you feel sick already. The masks you can use are like the gas masks. So we actually have one of these. I'm supposed to go pick up my new car tomorrow, which I don't really want, but my other way of getting up to see my daughter is the train, which will shut down any second. So I'm sort of stuck, and that also feels really bad to buy a nice new car when I don't even know what my future is, work-wise.
Can they deliver it to you?
The car, they can only deliver to a certain area in Burbank. That they have 2 spots they can do it, so I have to go to Burbank. So
that's one little thing. I mean, because we ordered a car for ourselves, like before all this stuff went down. And they're like, well, when are you going to come and pick it up? I'm like, well, first of all, we're going to wait nearer to the end of the month, and second of all, you're gonna bring it to my house. No offense.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do. I mean, I'm literally supposed to. What happened was there was a huge delay, so I thought it was going to be a long, long time anyway, because these things are hard. There's a lot of orders, but everybody canceled them, obviously, during these times. So now they have all this availability. Anyway, so it is an eerie, weird feeling down here. Definitely getting into it. I've got like a 2-story place down in LA. I've got my buddy with me and his girlfriend. We're really close friends. My girlfriend came out and visited a few days ago as the last person before we went full lockdown mode, because I told her, I was like, for you, I don't think it's the smartest thing to do, but she's like, I really want to see you. I said, okay. So she drove in from Arizona and she just went home. Anyway, so it's just a weird time. Like it's already getting weird in here, and people like seeing the city like this. This place is usually buzzing. Like where we live is the Arts District. It's on the weekends usually, people down the street all over the place. There's always filming something. There's usually celebrities all over the place. It's like a very happening kind of area, and it's just completely quiet.
Is that good?
It's weird. It's good. It's good that people are not taking it seriously. It took them a little longer, but it's a weird, eerie feeling just to look outside and see nothing.
Yeah, it's all. But for me, again, like it's even eerier when I see all these posts on Twitter. And
Oh, it's
that's really the most depressing posts for me are just like the posts from Nashville and from Disney World and all that stuff where, you know, people are just, you know, I don't want to use the wrong words, you know what I mean? Because I want to not come off as self-righteous, and I want to just get people to do what's right, you know, and this is what I was kind of getting at, you know, because there are a lot of people around here who, you know, again, I have a kind of an older set of friends than you do. Let's put it that way. I mean, not by that much, but
I have some older friends as well.
Yeah, but I mean, like the mean of my friends, right? The mean of my friends' age is different. It's a little older than yours, right?
Sure.
And I have parents too, and my parents thankfully are alive as well, and healthy. And so I think a lot of people are facing this is that, like, for example, like my Facebook feed is remarkably different than my Twitter feed, okay? With respect to who's on it and the tone of what's on it. And
give me like, if, without getting too deep, you know, something like an example of that.
Right. So I would say that the percentage of my Facebook feed that is hashtag it's just the flu is I would say at least 30%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's rough out there.
Yeah.
From that respect. And I get people that are posting pictures of, well, regular day for me, had my birthday party, my kids enjoyed it, and we're totally healthy. I don't know what the issue is, you know, and I get that. And these are people that are, you know, they're not like third world, like, right, people, you know. I don't say there's nothing wrong with third world people. I never want to say the wrong thing. These are not complete imbeciles.
No, right.
Right. That are, and part of it is just, you know, we live in kind of a jaded time where, you know, some people think that the media exaggerates, right? Some people think that everybody exaggerates. And to give you an example, like this is back, I don't even know, you don't remember this, but well, it wasn't, maybe you do, it wasn't really in your neck of the woods, but we had a hurricane several years ago, Hurricane Sandy out here. And what had happened was a couple of years before, a year or two before, there was a hurricane scare, and I think it was called Irene or something like that. And everybody said, just hunker down, don't go outside, don't do whatever. And it turned out that Hurricane Irene, I think it was Irene, was it turned out to be not that big of a deal, right? So at that point, everybody's like, everybody's making us go inside for no reason. So then when Sandy happened, everybody put up the same kind of warning, said, listen, this could be a really big deal. And about 70% of the people in this area is like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to be falling for this crap again, all right? I'm not going to do whatever. And I'm not going to be hunkered down because just because I'm going to get scared. And nobody was prepared, and the place got freaking decimated, okay? And so this is kind of like a jaded attitude of a lot of people around here. And so I have to kind of fight that in a way. And maybe I'm irresponsible. Maybe I'm just, as they say in movies, maybe I'm just too old for this shit or whatever. But I find it sometimes a waste of my energy, you know what I mean, to even bother, you know. So what I just kind of do is, if anybody asks me my opinion, I'll just kind of give it to them. But I'm like, for example, I went over to I did go my mother-in-law. It was her birthday yesterday, so, and she was quarantined in just because, you know, it was a smart thing to do. So we went over there, you know, my wife and I went over there to light a candle with her, whatever it was. And I said, listen, I really don't want to get into a political discussion with them, right? Because they're both kind of Trump people, and they're both whatever. I just want to enjoy the thing or whatever. But if I could somehow just impress upon them, you know, what's going on, it'd be great. And they asked me, they said, so what do you do? And I told them, and I made the mistake at one point of saying that, well, you know, because Trump did, and once I said that, they're like, well, what could anybody have done different? Okay, forget about why we're in this mess. How about that? Let's presume that it was somebody else and Trump did everything right, but we're in this mess anyway. Okay, let's forget about that. Where are we going from here? You know, and so I had to do that. You know what I mean? Because once you start getting into a political fight with someone, everything you say is just you're never gonna win, right? Right. so I was happy to at least get that across. I guess the one thing I'm going for me, and my wife is kind of into this, is I am of the people that, you know, all my friends here, I'm just kind of known as that kind of cold, heartless person that is all about the math and all about the statistics and you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like that person. So, you know, I was like the last person that people would expect to like react in this way to something like this, you know? So at least I have that going for me, such that when my wife is saying, telling her friends, listen, even Eric this, you know, like even Eric is doing this, you know, Eric is the one who always poo-poos like a lot of what's going on.
Right.
And you draw this distinction, like we were going, you know, I give this example, like three weeks ago, we had plans to go to Singapore, right, to visit my daughter who'd been there, whatever. And we decided to go. And the reason why we decided to go is I did the work. I figured out what was going on. I based on all the information I had, I felt as though that the risk of going was not that bad, that Singapore was containing it in the best way, in a really, really strong way. And when we went there, it was exactly the case, you know, and the fact that I always like analyze things in this way, you know, buys me a lot of equity when it comes to times like this, where I'm like, it's just different. This is a different situation than Singapore. Singapore is like the safest place in the world right now. It's like, I shouldn't say that. You know
no, seriously though.
But that's why it's just, everything is just kind of a different calculation. Like when someone says, hey, do you go all in with jacks? Well, it depends. It depends what the blinds are. It depends what the stacks are. You know, it's not like Eric, now you're deciding to wash your hands every time you go. Now you're deciding, yeah, now I am. You know what I mean? And it's because every pot's different and every hand is different. So at least I bought a little equity so that when people are asking me about what I think, I at least have that. I don't have that boy that cried wolf, you know what I mean, associated with me. And so hopefully the people that do ask me about it, I talk to them, they're on board with it. But the point of the matter is that finally, I mean, let's call it too late, call it whatever it is. Finally, New York is like caught up with the rest of the world. Not the rest of the world, but New York is kind of catching up with respect to things you need to do. And if people are not going to voluntarily do it, it's just going to get legislated. You know what I mean? Like if people are not going to go out, they're going to say, okay, no restaurants open. You know what I mean? And so that's New York finally, like, you know, slowly but surely they did whatever. Like, for example, like yesterday, as recently as yesterday, the New York City mayor was like, you know what, the risk of closing the schools is too great. I just can't do it because of, and I don't want to get involved in this, but he definitely had reasons, you know what I mean? Whether they were good reasons or not, the logic was that, number one, that that there were so many kids that were depending on school lunches to eat, that's one of the reasons they had to keep schools open, and that we don't want all these kids running the streets or whatever it is.
Right.
And eventually they worked it out where there was a way they'd get their school lunches and still, you know, cancel schools and things like that. So they finally, you know, at least worked that out, and those were all canceled. And the restaurant ban, I think, just hit this morning, such that the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut's tri-state area, restaurants are all going to takeout only starting tonight.
Right.
No movies, no casinos, no clubs, no bars. And, you know, and so if on the one hand, if human behavior is not going to take care of it on its own, they are going to, I think that at least the legislatures are, and whether it's because everybody else is doing it or not, I don't care. I just want the result. I mean, I really just want the result. So look, I know it's hard for everybody on a lot of different levels, but I'm hoping that, you know, that this type of action will contain it in a way that we can, I don't want to say get back to normal, because you're never going to be normal, you know, and you know what I'm hearing? I mean, you tell me when people say, well, are you never going to go out again? Are you never going to go to a restaurant again? When am I allowed, in your great opinion, to go to a restaurant again? When am I allowed to fraternize with people again? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's a dumb question. You know what I mean? I just don't know the answer. You know, I know today, right, this is what you need to do. And when my son asked me, he's like, well, when do you think, you know, like, for example, I'm envisioning the idea that there's going to be no, and he's a senior in high school. I'm envisioning there'll be no senior prom, right? Which, you know, in their heads is a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. And they're already off of school for the next like 2 weeks, probably going to be longer, probably going to be 8 weeks. And then what do you think, the prom that's going to be in June? I'm like, I don't know. And he said, well, when do you think this is all going to be over? And I said, listen, it's not going to be a situation where one day the president, whoever comes out and says, you know what, all clear, all ready to go. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, if things start to improve or things start to stabilize or whatever, slowly but surely, or slowly, I would say, they're going to scale back in some degree of priority, things that might be able to be let back in. It's not going to be like, on, off, and so you're just going to have to be flexible and be ready for anything, man.
And just to that point, I just want to remind people that the reason why the numbers aren't higher or scarier, and people will say this, the counterpart, which may be true, but it's not enough time. They'll say, well, that's great because the death rate still isn't that high. There's a lot of other things coming out about this. I mean, Italy, it went from a 3% death rate to got up to 9.7% yesterday. That's horrifying. We're being lied to about everything. So I just want to point this out, so people who do think we're being dramatic or whatever, the fact that people can't get tested and they're lying about the ability to test, it's absolutely fabricated. And it is, if you could ask anybody out there who's trying to get tested, it's almost impossible to do. It's really hard, unless you are incredibly ill. But
my wife brought my son in for he had a cold last week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He brought him in just to get looked at by the doctor, and they asked him, hey, do you think you think you should test him? He's like, honestly, not really. I mean, he's young, he's fine. It really is just a cold. And he says, well, are you testing people? It's like, actually, next door at ProHealth, they're testing a bunch of people. Yeah. And I actually got an email from ProHealth, which is one of the medical providers in the area, saying, if you need a test, just come into emergency thing. And so it's being advertised that you can go in and get one.
I hope that's true, that we thought it'd be something like that for us. I mean, it's not like LA is a small place.
However, and I'm also hearing stories about people that when they actually do go in, they really, and this is maybe good, maybe bad, I don't know. They really grill them and really require that you answer a lot of questions correctly or incorrectly, as it were, to qualify. And that, could be good, could be bad, because you don't want to have just people that are just kind of, like 35-year-old or 20-year-old healthy people that are just, feel a little shitty to like go in and hog up all the tests, right? Yet on the other hand, you don't want to put someone like your mom in a position where they have to, massage the system a little bit to say whatever.
Like, just on a personal note for her, like at the very best case, she had to be isolated from everybody for it's been almost 2 weeks. And that's different. It's different isolating when you have your family, like she's completely alone. Like, you know what I mean? I feel bad for her. It's not a fun thing to watch, and it's frustrating because that's what happened is they say, oh, you just come in. Yeah, no problem. If you have this. And basically what happened, what we were told by the advisors, the problem why she was denied before a number of times. The thing about this thing is the symptoms are odd, so they can come and go. And so if things aren't at their worst peak, they're being told not to test anybody who's not at their worst peak levels. So that's what they don't want to do. And also, they are trying to test the people who are older. The truth is, the reason we don't have the test, I don't want to get into all the old stuff, but we're able to get a lot more than we have now. We just don't, they don't have anything to do with the people if they actually find out they're sick. Because the truth is, there's not really a treatment for this.
That's right.
For older people, it would be good to have the hospital space, but they don't want to overflow the hospital. So as much as I disagree and hate what the government has been doing, I understand why they would lie. I understand why they're doing it. It makes some sense. I just think it's, at the end of the day, it still feels immoral, but I think it's still at least it makes some sense anyway. I think I probably shouldn't say it, but that they really want you to, like, if you really think that there's something you need to be tested to make you feel better, just tell them say you have the most severity of everything. It's not going to change anything. The doctor is not going to guess. They'll tell you whether you have it or you don't. But if you want to get in there, you basically have to say that you're on, you're almost positive that you have it and you've got all the symptoms basically.
Right. So let's I guess we'll talk sports, talk DFS a little bit. Let me just follow up on something I was mentioning earlier in the last podcast. Heading into the weekend, heading to Friday, I was mentioning that horse racing was still going. A little bit concerned the fact that the horse racing is going because in a way that the state gets a kickback from the horse racing thing. So that was a little bit whatever. Horse racing continued to press on all through the weekend. With no fans yet, yet, the jockeys were at risk, and the employees were at risk, right? So it did kind of press on. But even today, Turfway Park, which is in Arizona, they suspended the rest of their season, in deference to the protecting for the coronavirus, and so there's that. As far as actual casinos go, again, that was the other thing I was kind of worried about, was because, again, they it's a really big financial risk for them to close. Number two, they probably have to, the state probably gets some money from the casinos and stuff. And from what I see, like, all the casinos are not closed, but slowly but surely they seem to be closing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think. It's really disturbing. Like, my friend, I was so mad at her. She's actually, like, pretty cautious about this stuff usually. I told you this on another show, but they were in Vegas and she was gambling on Saturday night. Like, and I was like, what's the matter with you? And then you fly home and you have to lock yourself down. You can't even see your daughter anymore. Don't extend it. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me.
Yeah. But even my buddy who I told you about, who took a picture from the whatever, he actually, and this, look, to give you an example, he's like a really smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Usually. Okay. He's like, he got, and when I looked, I saw that he got second in some tournament, like over the weekend or something. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Right. And his first thing he said to me was like, if I'm going down doing something I love. I'm like, dude, I can only tell you, cause you're my friend, just don't be an idiot. And I spoke to him this morning about something else. He's like, yeah, that was really dumb. I'm hold up. You know what I mean? Like, so better late than never, I suppose. But like, you could, even like people that are just normally like,
yeah,
they just dumb sometimes,
Yeah.
So, hey, congratulations on the 3,200, bro. I really, good job in that tournament. You know what I mean? So let's have a little fun.
Let's go into some sports stuff, because
okay. So we'll do sports stuff, then we'll have some fun. So first of all, sports stuff. NBA. Any more news from the NBA or no?
No, we don't have there's nobody else tested officially positive other than Christian Wood. Sources inside the league office, and I'm quoting this from a couple different other people I trust the most and listen to the most to about NBA stuff. Think that it's very likely that a huge portion of the league has it, and that's not really the main concern. They're not concerned about the people individually. They think that at least they can't do anything about it now anyway. But the sad part and the unfortunate thing that I've been hearing, and these are just speculation from the people who I think are the smartest people about this. They seem to be leaning more towards that there's not going to be a season at all, because they're not going to finish it. Because if they did pick it up, the other part is that you keep hearing this June and July dates. I want to point out that there's a lot more people that have more information that I don't even have. But when the richest people start canceling events, like, Pride is a giant thing in LA, in West Hollywood and stuff. It's a huge thing every year. The fact that they cancel that 3.5 months out, that's a really alarming thing. And sure, by then even probably won't be, but that's like, I don't know. So that's sort of what's happening with the sports stuff. When they start canceling, like even the way that the Masters got canceled that far in advance, I thought was a little bit surprising.
Yep.
So I'm afraid. I don't think there's any reason to expect any season anytime soon for any sport, personally.
Well, what I would say, by the way, what I did hear proposed is something that I spoke about like a week ago.
What was
maybe
the contest?
A playoff system with all the teams in it.
Yeah. I know it actually did happen. I was sort of behind on that, but I liked the idea of the tournament. Like, you know what I mean? Like to play it like a tournament, but not to have everybody, like I would have everybody playing for like the 8th seed, and then we play a 1-game playoff between the teams, or 2. I don't know how to work it, but something like that is what I was thinking about personally. Yeah,
but the June, July, I am, again, I don't want to predict or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
I don't either, unfortunately. And
look, I had to send an email out to my basketball teams for the spring, right? About whatever. And I just said, listen, how did I put this? Because again, the people I'm dealing with are not exactly, whatever. I just said, given current conditions, it seems quite unlikely that any basketball will be played in the near future. There's certainly issues with respect to recruiting. For those of you who are in that mode which warrant attention, that being the possible, probable, likely cancellation of the live period, the possibility the commitment deadlines get extended. If I get any information on that. And I said, nothing would make me happier than if conditions improve such that we could play basketball, among other important things as well.
Right.
And that's pretty much the way I kind of like couched it. And I said, for now, stay safe. I'll get you further updates. So hey, I would love it if there was NBA. You know what I mean? But ask me to predict it. I think the season's done. But hey, let's see. I mean, well, I'll be, dude. I'll be the first one playing a full slate on DFS when it freaking comes back. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it'll be like a jam-packed. It'll fill in 2 seconds. However many people they make it available to, and I'll be the first one on there. Believe me, and I'll be a big smile on my face when that happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, in the meantime, I do think that, a lot of the people who at least listen to us, they still like the poker stuff. And I did have a fun little poker day yesterday. I hadn't played poker in a while.
Tell me about that.
Huge tournaments going on right now.
What'd you play? ACR?
Yeah, they announced. I said it was going to happen. We called this one. They announced a giant series as starting Wednesday. But yesterday it was a $600 tournament, but it was a 500,000 guaranteed, but it ended up being well over $1 million because they had 1,700 entrants. I bubbled. I was two off the day two money bubble. I thought it was a good sign, Cheech. I think you can appreciate why not to be results oriented on these kind of hands. When I play tournaments, especially because I was at the same table the entire day, and this tournament played more like a big buy-in online tournament. Like, it reminded me of like playing like the 5K or 10K back in the day of the online events. And people were playing really pretty good, actually. But when I play at a table for a long time, I do a lot of stuff. So I go in periods where I'm the nittiest player. I go periods where I'm really aggressive. So I thought it was a good sign that the guy tried to 5-bet me all in with ace 3, which I had ace king. But anyway, so I ended up losing that, knocked me out for what would have been probably like a little bit above average stack. I didn't have a big stack, but I thought it was a good sign because I'd been so aggressive that I actually got this guy to do what I wanted him to do. So I don't have to take it, look, if I could fire up another one right now, I would do it. But it's frustrating to lose like that, but it felt good to at least be back in the game,
Yeah, so here's my screen, by the way.
Yeah.
So you could have asked me, by the way. I had some I saw that you tweeted about this online. I actually had a little bit of ACR from when I last played like a year ago. I could have shipped over to you. I just saw that. But yeah, they're showing what is this? Oh, this is Sunday. They have a 2-day event.
That was the event. I was right.
That happened already. Oh, okay.
That was the one I was. Well, the second day is today. The problem is that was the one I was 2 off the money in.
Okay. Okay. So the other thing. So that's how poker went. So DFS. Let's just ask. Let's have some fun. Did you play soccer?
I didn't play soccer. I did play the Biden Bernie showdown. I got torched. I think I got 13. I think I might have gotten 13 fantasy points. we got it was hard to do. I actually thought they were really clever how they priced the things, because they basically made it impossible to have the word Trump and coronavirus you couldn't have in the same lineup. So we were getting into all the theories of how to try and play it right. I thought I used pretty good strategy, but I just it didn't come through at all. I was probably in like the bottom 10%, but whatever. It was a lot of fun. Did you play soccer?
Of course I played soccer.
Oh my God. How are the tournaments these days with the soccer?
I played soccer. I'll shout them out. I went to Roto Grinders. I looked at the projections and I tried to I made a lineup, and I was profitable for like a while.
Nice, man.
And then some guy whose name I can't pronounce didn't get any fantasy points from me or something like that. That's just the way it goes. But and then there's like all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Like one of the other sites is doing like an NBA 2K simulation that you could that they're giving a free roll away you could bet on. And I posted this on Twitter. My friends, okay, finally I'm gonna put my son to good use. He's freaking plays this freaking thing 24/7, and he's like home from school, so he's got nothing else to do. I'm like, what the hell, man? You got to give me some insight into these teams. He's like, I only play the all-time teams. But I don't even know what you're talking about. But you're telling me that you're not going to be able to contribute, like even at all, when you're home? You got to be kidding me. So
funny. That's she says the funny one. One thing about when I first started playing DFS more seriously, I was traveling for the summer, and you could play on Draft Street. I was in Europe for the summer, and I was my big family trip, not the whole summer, but just during the World Cup, and all the kids were obsessed. These guys knew they still know everything about soccer. So I was playing on Draft Street, and all the biggest buy-in tournaments, I had a 9-day in a row winning streak where I won the biggest tournament 9 days in a row with one entry.
Really?
I played more than one entry, and all I did was poll the audience, talk to these kids about who to play, and they never let me down. They were on top of it. It was incredible, actually. So that was really fun during the World Cup that time. Maybe I'll get back to it.
So here's another thing that's going on right now. So people are looking for stuff to bet on, and there's nothing else going on, and people are all asking about the options market, the stock market, and stuff like that. All right, and I managed my hedge for 17 years. I've never mentioned a word about the stock market, and I'm never going to. I'm just never going to get involved in it with respect to poker and whatever, getting people involved in that kind of stuff. But I would like to say this: for those of you that are considering doing this and getting into the stock market, get into whatever, posted this on Twitter. I do think that education is always important, and if you have time ever to learn a skill and to learn anything, I'm never going to say not to do it. Okay. But all I will say is this: if you're thinking of getting involved in this is, and this was the analogy I drew. Remember, during the NBA All-Star break, when the NBA DFS players decided they were going to play hockey a few days, the people that played hockey for a living consider those their best ROI days of the year, right? Somewhere out there are options and stock market experts thinking the exact same thing about a situation where all these other professional gamblers are going to have nothing to do and try their hand at the stock market. I will just say that it's very difficult. You have the smartest people in the world doing it, and billions and billions in the line, which means that the smartest people in the world are doing it. If you want to do it,
I would say that's true. I would say the same thing is somewhat. I mean, look, maybe not brilliant, maybe not the very smartest, but I think we already compete in something that's I think the intelligence level is higher in DFS and poker than it is in a lot of other things. I'm not going to say it's higher than the stock market.
But the thing is, again, like I said, but I want you to just consider that the real options experts, and when you talk to Strauss about this and other guys that are kind of whatever, it's a combination of having very brilliant people who also have bots. You know what I mean? If you were playing the best, heads up poker player in the world who also had a heads up bot. You know what I mean? It's hard, but I certainly encourage anybody that wants to learn with the idea in mind that it takes a long time to learn anything. Let's put it that way. So I wouldn't be responsible if I didn't say, if you're going to dive into anything, whether it be stuff you've never done before, whether it be horse racing, stock market, whatever it is that is out there, that and this is going to fall on totally deaf ears. I'll tell you in advance, but go small. You know what I mean? Don't play that much. But hey, I mean, I'm also a realist. I know how it goes. I need to ask you about one thing in relation, not exactly to this, but we've never had a conversation about crypto anything. And you're probably the only other person who plays poker that I haven't had that conversation with, or played poker at some point. What are your thoughts about that whole world? Yeah. So I got questions about that as things were going ramping up and ramping down over the last couple of years. And the way I always looked at it was, I never invested in crypto because like anything else I do in the stock market or poker, whatever, I never really invest in anything or gamble on anything unless I feel I have some kind of an edge. And I just never felt as though I had a particular edge on crypto, and not only forget the technology behind it, but just on direction, on which way it would be going. The only thing I did mention is when it did, peak, maybe it was a year ago, 2 years ago, I was able to at least talk to a couple of my friends who've been in it to say, listen, it certainly resembles that of a bubble with respect to other bubbles in the markets over the last few years. And I gave them reasons for that. And again, fortunately, I was both old enough to have experience and also young enough such that people wouldn't look at me and say, this guy's just freaking old. He doesn't know about crypto. You know what I mean? Like, he's different. You know, like, I don't want to talk to anybody over freaking 30 about freaking crypto because they don't know, man. They're idiots. And I'll just kind of draw this analogy. Like, when I first got involved in the stock market, like professionally, whatever, it was back in, for those of you who see me so long ago, like in 1998, 1999, where internet stocks were the bubble and everything was going through the roof or whatever. And there was a guy in my office who was like an older guy. And he said to me, he says, listen, this is a bubble, and this is why it looks like a bubble, and this is why it's going to crash. And Eric, you're never going to believe me because I'm old, right? And I'm going to tell you about the way it was back in the time before you were born. And you're not going to believe me because I'm old. And hopefully I'm just not talking to myself. And he explained to me all the different reasons why he thought it was a bubble, whatever it is. And because I am, consider myself a genius with respect to knowing who to listen to and who not to, I'm like, this guy, I don't care how old he is, how hard it is for him to freaking walk. The guy's making freaking sense, and I'm going to respect his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came to the crypto thing, that's exactly the way I kind of felt, is that I was talking to some of the younger kids and said, listen, whatever. And I said, listen, you're not going to listen to me, but. And there were people that like a year later said, I'm so glad you got me out of Bitcoin, like 20,000. I didn't do anything. I really didn't have an opinion. All I could tell you is that it's a very speculative situation. And whenever psychology is really at one end of the spectrum with respect to anything, all it takes is a little flick for it to go. And that's, again, maybe this will be the only time I talk about the stock market is like the current sell-off that started, like a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was. I'm not going to say that it would have happened anyway if it weren't for the outbreak. But the way I look at things is any markets that are so filled with emotion one way or the other, whether it's everybody's really, really positive about something or really negative about something, those things are just more subject to something affecting it than anything else. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of like a completely high-owned guy busting, like everybody busts, right?
Right.
So when it for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different measures, the markets were considered to be very, very extended, and the confidence was really, really high. So in situations like that, when an external event like this happens, it's going to affect it just that much more. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that if the market were lower, that it wouldn't go down as a result of this, but it certainly, I don't think it would have gone down as much. So that's just kind of the way I look at things. So when it comes to crypto itself, the reason why I really haven't talked about it is I don't really have much of an opinion. I will say that crypto as an asset class, meaning something you can bet on, let's really call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to give an opinion on the technology. I'm sure the technology is fine. It's going to revolutionize the way you do business, but there's a huge difference between the actual thing and the price of the thing. You know what I mean? Like sure, Apple's a great company. Is it worth what it is in the stock price? I don't know, right? So there's a difference. I do think that the crypto thing is huge, but whether that means that the price of Bitcoin or the price of ETH or the price of something else is not overvalued or undervalued is a totally different conversation. So I always, when I look at crypto, I just consider it another betting interest for the purposes of our discussion, because that's all people want to ask me about is not the technology behind crypto. They just want to ask me, is it going up? Or is it going down?
Right.
If I bet on it, am I going to make money? If I bet, I'm going to lose money. And that at least gives some kind of opinion on, with respect to that. I don't really have a feel for which way things go on a day-to-day basis with something like that. I will say that it is the most speculative of the asset classes. So it is going to go up or down more, duh. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need me to tell you that, right? But, it's kind of, gone alongside with other asset classes, and you could draw charts comparing it to the stock market. You draw charts, whatever. I feel it very similar, that when things were very, very, psychologically really, really strong, it was subject to a real decline, and it in fact happened. And I think that at some point, I just don't know when it's going to be, that psychology is going to be all the way the other end, where you're going to have, your person who cuts your hair on the street telling you they want to short Bitcoin or something like that.
Right.
Like, when that's the case, then you probably want to buy it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way that goes. So,
I may have to go in just a minute because my mom has called me a couple times. I'm just kind of curious to see what it's about. So If you don't mind, if we can
Yes.
put up, there's
So,
just,
so we'll call this, but
yeah.
you know, it's
I like the stuff. I thought it
but
was actually really good information. I mean, I was appreciating what you're talking about, and I want to grill you more about
yeah, and that's why, like I said, like when I talk about my fund or whatever, I'm like always market neutral, pretty
it.
much. So I don't really have a stake in which way the market goes because, quite honestly, my opinion on it is really not too valuable on the market in general. I just don't really have much of an edge over anybody else when it comes to predicting the next, you know,
Yeah.
at 5-10%. You know what I mean? But uh,
Yeah.
but those types of things are you know, again, I think the stock market and things like that are going to take on people's money a little more. People are going to put action up, and yeah, maybe we'll talk about it one of these days. But it
Yeah.
takes it's a lot of work. It's really
Yeah,
hard.
no, of course, but it's, it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much
I'll,
Sheets, for doing this today. And guys, we'll be back. Sheets, we'll be back tomorrow, right? Why
yeah,
not?
absolutely. I'm around.
We're back with you guys. We appreciate you guys staying with us. Hit me up on Twitter, on our YouTube channel, anything you want. And we will talk to you shortly.
Stay safe. Peace to your mom.
Thank you.